Ethan's boots sank slightly into the frozen soil of Zareen 7 as he moved forward, every step crunching under the strange, icy light of the alien sun. The planet stretched before him in jagged mountains and deep valleys, its skies painted in shimmering hues of violet and gold. He wasn't supposed to be alone. His team had been exploring the remains of a long-abandoned research station when the ground beneath them had groaned and cracked, swallowing Lara, his closest partner, into a dark crevice. Panic surged in Ethan's chest, but he forced himself to breathe. He ran to the edge, peering down into the shadowy depth, his heart pounding. From below came faint, desperate cries. He couldn't tell if they were human or alien, but something told him time was short. Without thinking, he grabbed the rope and began descending. The wind howled like a living thing, rattling the icy walls around him, threatening to crush him with every step. Halfway down, he froze. There, tangled in debris, was a small creature. Its body glowed softly with a pale bluish light, and its 4 delicate limbs trembled as it struggled to free itself. Ethan's throat went dry. He had never seen anything like it. Its eyes, large and luminescent, looked up at him, filled with fear but also an unspoken trust. "Don't worry," he whispered, extending a hand. Carefully, he freed the creature from the rubble and cradled it close. Its tiny body quivered against him, and Ethan felt a strange surge of protectiveness. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about saving a life that seemed impossibly fragile. Suddenly, a crack sounded above him. Ethan's heart lurched. Rocks began to fall, forcing him to scramble upward. The creature held tightly against his chest. Every movement was a test of strength and luck. The world felt like it had narrowed to the space between him and the surface. Finally, with a burst of adrenaline, he pulled himself over the edge and collapsed onto the cold ground. The creature rested safely in his arms, breathing shakily. From the shadows of the crystalline cliffs, a figure appeared. Tall, graceful, and radiating light, she descended silently. Her skin shimmered like molten silver, and her eyes reflected wisdom and sorrow, watching him intently. Ethan struggled to find words. She radiated a presence he couldn't ignore, a mix of authority, grace, and desperate vulnerability. "My child," she said, her voice melodic but carrying a weight that made Ethan's chest tighten. "You have saved them." Ethan shook his head, almost in disbelief. I just couldn't let them die," he stammered. I didn't think about rewards." She tilted her head, studying him as if weighing every thought and feeling. Then she knelt, bringing her face level with his. "For saving my child, you shall be rewarded," she said softly, a gentle promise that carried power beyond words. Ethan felt a chill, but it wasn't from the cold. It was the gravity of her words, the realization that a simple human act, one born of instinct, courage, and compassion, was being recognized by a being far greater than himself. The small creature blinked up at him, its tiny limbs curling protectively around his fingers. Ethan's heart ached with a mixture of awe and fear. He realized then that in this vast universe, humans were small, but humans could rise to greatness. Courage, empathy, and selflessness weren't limited to legends or stories. They were traits that could shine in the darkest, most alien places. For the first time, Ethan understood something deeper. Sometimes, a single act of bravery could bridge worlds, could earn the respect of beings he had only dreamed of. And sometimes that simple act was enough to change the course of fate, not just for him but for everyone who might come after. Ethan followed the silver-skinned Princess Layara through the icy landscape. Every step felt unreal. The snow and jagged rocks soon gave way to a valley that seemed alive with light. Towers of crystal spiraled into the sky, glowing softly from within. Rivers of liquid light flowed through the streets, illuminating creatures of shapes and sizes he couldn't even name. Their bodies shimmered, some like water, some like fire, yet all moved with harmony as if the city itself was a living organism. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. He had seen human cities on Earth, seen Earth's wonders, but nothing compared to this. It was beauty and power merged into one. Liara's silver eyes held his gaze, her expression calm but intense. "It is our home. You have earned the right to see it because you acted with courage. Few of your kind would have dared what you did." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't do it for recognition. I didn't even know what I was saving. I just couldn't leave it behind." She smiled faintly, but there was a depth of understanding in her eyes. "Courage is rare, Ethan. Even among humans, it is a gift that can change worlds. That is why I have brought you here. He felt a flush of disbelief. He was just a human, one man, one life. Yet here was a princess of an alien race telling him that his small act mattered. His heart pounded with a mix of fear, pride, and wonder. Suddenly, the city's calm shattered. Alarms echoed like thunder across the crystalline towers. Lights flashed red through the streets. Liara's expression hardened. "The Dominion," she said quietly, almost to herself. Then she turned to him, her voice firm. "They are coming. They are relentless. They consume everything in their path. We have little time." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had trained for danger on Earth, had faced hostile wildlife, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. And yet somehow he felt a spark of determination. The child he had saved, the people of this city, even Liara herself, he couldn't abandon them. Liara led him to a central plaza, where alien machines hummed with energy, and soldiers readied themselves. "You have been given a gift, Ethan," she said. "A reward that is not gold, not wealth, but knowledge and the chance to help your kind rise. Humanity is young in the universe, but your spirit, it can surprise even the oldest races." Ethan swallowed hard. He looked at the glowing city, at the beings preparing for war, and at the small creature now nestled safely in Liara's arms. For the first time, he felt the weight of responsibility. He was no longer a lone explorer lost on a strange planet. He was part of something larger, something that required courage, intelligence, and humanity. Liara's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "Will you help us?" she asked, her silver eyes searching his soul. "We need someone who acts with both heart and mind, someone who does not falter when faced with fear." Ethan nodded slowly. I will. I don't know if I can, but I will try." A small smile curved her lips. "That is all that is needed. Humanity has gifts, Ethan, strength, endurance, compassion, gifts that can change the tide when others underestimate you. That is why you were chosen." The wind swirled around them, carrying icy dust that sparkled in the light of the city. For a moment, Ethan felt a strange calm. Fear had not vanished, but determination burned brighter. He had saved one life, and now he would stand to protect many more. And somewhere deep inside, he realized this was only the beginning. The reward Liara had promised was not something he could hold. It was a chance to prove that humans, fragile as they seemed, could rise above fear, could face impossible odds, and could shine when the universe needed them most. Ethan stood at the edge of the glowing plaza, watching the alien city come alive with urgency. The once serene towers now pulsed with red warning lights, and ethereal soldiers moved with precision, preparing defenses. The air vibrated with tension, and the wind carried a strange metallic scent that made Ethan's stomach tighten. Liara stood beside him, holding her child tightly. Her normally calm eyes were now sharp, scanning the horizon. "The Dominion will arrive in less than an hour," she said. "They do not hesitate. They do not feel. They will destroy everything if we do not act." Ethan clenched his fists. He had faced dangers on Earth, but nothing like this. These were not animals, not humans. This was a force that consumed worlds. And yet somewhere deep inside a spark ignited. The same spark that had made him save the tiny creature moments ago was now rising stronger. He would not let fear dictate his actions. "What can I do?" he asked. "I'm just human." Liara's gaze softened. "That is why we need you. The Dominion expects strength and fire, but humans have cunning, adaptability, and unpredictability. That is why you were chosen. That is why you are here." Ethan's heart pounded. He wasn't sure if he could live up to that. But he looked at the child in Liara's arms, at the city relying on him, and something inside him hardened. He had saved one life today. Now he could help save many more. The first shadows appeared on the horizon, massive ships, black and jagged, moving like predators. The sky darkened as their engines roared, a sound that shook the ground beneath his feet. The alien soldiers readied their weapons, energy shields forming around the city. Ethan felt his pulse quicken, but he stayed grounded. Panic would not help anyone. Liara handed him a small device. "This will interface with our defense grid. You must use it. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts." Ethan studied the device. He had never seen anything like it. Its interface was fluid, alien, yet somehow he understood it. He nodded. "Okay, I'll try." He stepped onto a raised platform and touched the device. Instantly, lights danced across the city as barriers and defenses began to activate. Ethan's human mind, used to improvisation and rapid problem-solving, began finding weak points and adjusting the city's defenses in ways the aliens themselves had not anticipated. Liara watched him closely, her expression unreadable. Then, as the first Dominion fighters descended toward the city, she whispered almost to herself, "He is human, and already he surprises us." The initial clash was terrifying. Dark, jagged ships tore through the clouds, firing energy beams that shattered the ground and set rivers of light ablaze. The alien defenders moved with skill and grace, but the Dominion was relentless. Ethan's hands moved quickly over the device, rerouting shields, activating countermeasures, and even creating traps using the city's energy streams. Each time a Dominion ship fell, Ethan felt a surge of disbelief and pride. They had underestimated humans, and that mistake was giving them an advantage. The aliens began to rally, inspired by his presence, by the courage and quick thinking of a species they had long thought fragile and weak. For the first time, Ethan realized the truth Liara had hinted at. Humans were not just fragile creatures of bone and blood. Humans could endure, adapt, and rise when the odds were impossible. Humans could shine when the universe least expected it. As the battle raged, Ethan's heart ached with fear for the child, for Liara, and for the city, but he refused to let panic rule him. He adjusted the defenses one last time, a plan forming in his mind. He knew the Dominion would pay a price for underestimating humanity. And in that moment, amidst fire, fear, and uncertainty, Ethan understood what Liara had seen in him. Courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. And humans, he realized, could surprise even the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Ethan's hands moved faster than his mind sometimes thought possible. The Dominion's dark ships were relentless, crashing through the skies, energy beams scorching the city below. Each blast shook the ground, sending vibrations through the crystalline towers, threatening to topple them. But Ethan didn't panic. He had learned in those few hours that fear was a weapon the enemy could use against him, and he refused to let it control him. Liara hovered close, her silver eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. She clutched her child tightly, whispering words in a language Ethan couldn't understand, but the tone carried hope and reassurance. Ethan felt a pang in his chest. He had saved one life, but now, every life in this city depended on him. And for the first time, he truly felt the weight of responsibility. "Focus," Liara said softly, as if reading his thoughts. "Your mind, your instincts, they are what we need. The Dominion expects force, but humans think differently. That is why you were chosen." Ethan nodded, gripping the alien device like it was an extension of himself. He adjusted the city's energy barriers, creating new patterns of defense that confused the Dominion ships. He even used the city's flowing rivers of light as traps, turning their own momentum against them. The alien soldiers began to move more confidently, inspired by his actions, trusting his decisions despite him being a stranger from another world. A massive Dominion ship broke through the outer defenses, heading straight for the plaza where Liara and her child were. Ethan's heart lurched. There was no time to think, only action. He rerouted energy streams, forming a temporary shield over the plaza, but it was unstable. The ship's attack came anyway, and the barrier cracked under the force. Sparks flew and the ground shook violently. Without hesitation, Ethan shouted to the alien soldiers, "Use the auxiliary power lines. Divert energy into the plasma cannons now." His voice was calm, commanding, even though inside he was terrified. The soldiers obeyed instantly, redirecting the city's energy into a concentrated beam that struck the Dominion ship directly. The impact was massive. The ship shuddered, then broke apart in a cascade of fire and debris. The plaza fell silent for a heartbeat. Ethan sank to his knees, trembling from adrenaline, from fear, from relief. Liara's eyes met his, shining with gratitude and something more: respect, awe, and a glimmer of hope. "You have done more than save my child," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "You have saved our city, our people, our future." Ethan swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. He was still just a human, fragile and small, yet somehow he had made a difference. And in that moment he realized that being human was not about strength and muscle or firepower. It was about courage, ingenuity, and refusing to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. The Dominion forces hesitated, regrouping at the edge of the city. The humans' unpredictable tactics, his quick thinking, had shaken them. The alien soldiers sensed it, and morale surged. The city's defenses stabilized, energy shields holding firm, weapons ready, all under the guidance of one human who had simply refused to quit. Liara knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You are extraordinary," she said, her voice soft but full of emotion. "Your people, humans, have a strength I had not believed possible. Courage, creativity, heart. These are your true weapons." Ethan looked at her child safe in her arms, at the city still standing despite the odds. He realized that what he had thought was luck or coincidence, his choices, his instinct, was proof that humanity had a place among the stars. A single human could inspire hope, could lead, could turn despair into victory. For the first time, Ethan understood the promise in Liara's words. The reward she had offered was not treasure, not a title. It was the chance to show what humanity could do, to prove that even the smallest, most fragile creatures could rise to greatness when they acted with heart. And in that moment, amidst fire, energy, and chaos, Ethan felt it. Humans, no matter how underestimated, could shine brighter than the darkest forces in the universe. The Dominion's forces had regrouped, and now their numbers seemed endless. Ships blotted out parts of the alien sky, their engines roaring like storms. Ethan stood on the platform in the plaza, heart racing, yet his mind was clear. Every decision, every action could mean life or death for Liara, her child, and the city. He had learned quickly. Fear would only slow him down. Liara hovered nearby, her gaze unwavering. "Ethan, the Dominion has never faced humans like you. They do not expect courage, they do not expect ingenuity. That is why you can still change the outcome." Ethan nodded. He felt a surge of determination. "Then let's make sure they regret underestimating us." He turned back to the device in his hands, the interface glowing softly under his touch. Energy barriers hummed through the city, and plasma cannons charged with power. Ethan had spent hours learning the patterns of the Dominion ships, predicting their movements. His human mind, honed for problem-solving under pressure, began creating traps, rerouting energy flows, and coordinating defenses. A massive Dominion fighter dove straight toward the plaza faster than any ship Ethan had faced. The child in Liara's arms whimpered, sensing danger. Ethan's chest tightened, but he didn't hesitate. He recalculated energy streams, diverting a beam from a nearby tower into a shield in front of the plaza. Sparks erupted, metal groaned, but the shield held. The ship slammed against it and exploded into a cascade of fire. The alien soldiers cheered, their morale lifting. Ethan's presence had become a symbol of hope, proof that humans were more than fragile creatures of flesh and bone. His courage inspired them, gave them confidence they hadn't known they needed. But the battle was far from over. The Dominion commander's ship, massive and jagged, descended above the city, radiating dark energy. Ethan's heart pounded. He had never faced anything like this. He could feel fear tugging at him, whispering to retreat. But then he saw Liara's eyes filled with trust and hope. He saw her child safe for now because of his choices, and he remembered the promise he had made to himself. He would not fail. "Everyone focus," Ethan shouted. His voice cut through the chaos, clear and commanding. "Use the outer shields to guide them into the trap. Fire only when I give the signal. We can stop this, together." He activated a series of energy channels he had rigged earlier, turning the city itself into a maze of defenses. The Dominion commander's ship barreled forward, falling precisely into the path Ethan had calculated. Plasma beams struck it from multiple directions. Energy barriers pulled it off course, and the ship shuddered violently under the coordinated assault. Liara watched him, awe in her eyes. "A human, a single human, can do this?" she whispered. Ethan gritted his teeth, sweat mixing with the icy wind. "We're never as weak as they think," he said, voice low but firm. "Never." The commander's ship broke apart, the energy release sending shockwaves across the city. Ethan stumbled but stayed upright, the hum of the city's energy returning to normal. Around him, the alien defenders cheered, their faith in him and in humanity solidified. Liara descended, floating beside him, and placed her hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than save my child. You have saved hope itself. You have shown that humanity is not weak, not fragile. You are proof that courage, ingenuity, and heart can overcome the impossible." Ethan looked at her, at the child, at the city alive with light and resilience. A warmth spread through his chest. He realized that bravery wasn't about strength. It was about refusing to give up, about acting when others might run, about believing that one life, one human, could make a difference. And in that moment, amidst the ruins of battle, Ethan understood the truth of the universe. Humans were small, yes, but inside each of them burned a fire that could rival the stars. The battle was over. The Dominion's forces had been defeated, their dark ships scattered across the skies like fallen shadows. The city, though scarred, stood strong, its towers glowing with resilience. Ethan leaned against the railing of a crystal balcony, exhausted but alive. His chest heaved, not just from the physical strain, but from the weight of everything he had experienced in the past hours. Liara descended to stand beside him, her silver eyes calm now, though still filled with emotion. Her child clung to her, eyes wide and curious yet unafraid, safe because of Ethan's courage. The princess's gaze shifted to him, lingering longer than Ethan was used to. "You have done more than anyone could have imagined," she said softly. "You risked your life, not for glory, not for reward, but because you understood what needed to be done. That is rare, even among our own people." Ethan shook his head, still catching his breath. I didn't do it for praise," he whispered. I couldn't let them die. It was the right thing to do." Liara smiled faintly, her expression both tender and proud. "That is exactly why you are human. Your strength is not in your body or your weapons. It is in your heart, and that is why you are worthy of what I promised." Her words sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. All this time he had thought the reward would be material, technology, wealth, or knowledge. But now he realized it was something far deeper. She gestured to the city around them, to the streets glowing with flowing light and life returning to normal. "The gift I give is trust," she said. "Trust in your abilities, trust in your species, trust in the choices you make. You have earned a place among us, not as a visitor, but as a friend, a protector, a symbol." Ethan blinked, overwhelmed. He had never been given such recognition, not on Earth, not in his life. But the sincerity in her voice, the way the child smiled at him, the admiration in the eyes of the alien soldiers made it clear this was real. His courage, his humanity had bridged a gap between worlds. Liara extended her hand, not in ceremony, but in trust. "Come with me," she said. Ethan hesitated for a moment. This was a chance to walk beside someone extraordinary, to learn, to see the universe in ways he had only dreamed of. And yet he thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, and a deep sense of responsibility rose inside him. I will," he said finally, gripping her hand. "But I have to go back eventually. My people, they need to know what humans can do." Liara nodded, understanding. "Then take what you have learned here and let your people see the strength inside you. Your bravery is a bridge, Ethan, a bridge between humans and the stars." As they walked through the city together, Ethan felt a sense of calm he had never known. The fear, the uncertainty, the adrenaline, all of it had led to this moment of connection, of recognition, of belonging. He realized that being rewarded was not about material things, it was about respect, trust, and the chance to make a difference beyond oneself. The child reached out, touching Ethan's hand with tiny, glowing fingers. The gesture was simple, but it carried more meaning than words could express. Life had been saved. Hope had been preserved. And in that moment, Ethan felt the true value of his actions, not in victories or medals, but in the bonds forged between hearts, even across worlds. Liara looked at him once more, eyes soft but filled with conviction. "For saving my child, you have shown what humans can do. Courage, empathy, ingenuity. These are your gifts. And now the universe knows your worth." Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he would never forget. He had begun as a lone human on a strange planet, unsure of his place in the universe. Now he stood as proof that even one human could inspire, protect, and change the course of history. And as the alien city hummed with life, with hope renewed, Ethan understood the truth. Humanity's strength was not in its weapons or technology, but in its heart, and that was a power no enemy could ever destroy. The alien city was calm now. The Dominion had retreated, their dark ships nothing more than smoldering silhouettes against the violet sky. Ethan stood on a balcony, the wind carrying a soft, electric hum from the flowing rivers of light below. The city had survived because of him, because of one human who had refused to turn away in the face of impossible odds. Liara descended silently, her silver eyes reflecting pride and gratitude. Her child was safe, glowing softly in her arms, now asleep after the long ordeal. She reached out, gently placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You have done more than anyone could have imagined," she said. "You have shown that humans are capable of greatness. You are proof that courage, compassion, and determination can shape the fate of worlds." Ethan shook his head, a tired but genuine smile on his lips. I didn't do it for praise. I just did what had to be done. I saved a life, and I couldn't let the city fall. That's all." Liara's smile widened, her eyes softening. "And yet that is enough. That is why you are extraordinary. Not because you are stronger than others, not because you have weapons or power, but because you are human. Your heart, your mind, and your choices make you a force even the oldest civilizations cannot ignore." For a moment, Ethan looked at the city, glowing and alive, the alien soldiers moving with purpose, hope restored in every corner. He thought of Earth, of his people, and of all the small moments that had led him here. The decision to save the creature, the leap into the unknown, the fear he had faced and conquered. Every step had mattered. Every choice had counted. Liara knelt beside him, her child reaching out a tiny hand to touch his. "This is your reward," she said softly. "The trust of a people, the hope of a city, and the knowledge that your species can rise when the universe least expects it. That is more precious than any treasure." Ethan felt warmth spread through him, a feeling deeper than pride or relief. He had begun this journey as a lone human, small and uncertain, on a frozen alien planet. Now he understood what it meant to be human in the galaxy. Humans were underestimated, fragile in appearance, but inside each one burned a light that could inspire, protect, and triumph. A gentle wind swept across the balcony, carrying the sense of alien flora and the distant hum of the city. Ethan stood tall, looking toward the horizon where stars shimmered like diamonds. Somewhere out there, other worlds awaited, other challenges, other lives that might need saving. And he knew humanity could rise to meet them. Humanity could endure, adapt, and shine. Liara's hand rested on his shoulder, a simple gesture that carried profound meaning. "Remember this, Ethan," she said. "The universe is vast and your species is young. But courage, compassion, and ingenuity, these are your true strengths. Do not forget them, for they will guide you and others through the darkness to come." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight and the promise of her words. The child stirred slightly, reaching toward him again, and he smiled, realizing that sometimes the smallest lives could leave the biggest marks on the heart. He had saved one, and in doing so had proven that humans were capable of far more than anyone, including himself, had ever imagined. The city's light shimmered, a reflection of hope, resilience, and unity. Ethan felt a sense of calm purpose, knowing that he had left his mark not through weapons or conquest, but through courage, heart, and choice. Humanity's light, fragile yet brilliant, had shone across the stars. As the night settled over the city, Ethan stood with Liara and her child, looking out at the vast, endless sky. He had begun as a stranger on an alien world, and now he was a symbol, a reminder that humans, small as they seemed, could rise, endure, and inspire. And in that moment, Ethan understood fully. Sometimes, one human heart acting with courage and compassion was enough to change the course of the universe.